I really hope I get back to start doing some more movie reviews once again here on One On Podcasting. Which, if you didn't know, when I first started this series last year, I bet you didn't know this, but I actually started this series by basically doing a review of the Captain Marvel movie. I bet you didn't know that. Back in 2020, that was the first episode I ever did. And I look back and I say, wow. So that was March 9th, 2019. And that was the first time I went ahead and did that. And I wanted to go ahead and, I always had some thoughts on certain movies, but I've always done certain movie reviews, but more or less I've done talking about movies when it comes to the movie industry as a whole. So here we are. And the fact that Mortal Kombat comes out the weekend, I get to go back out the theaters once again, where my Regal Theater is right next door to my house, and I got to go to it. It was great. People showed up. It was like a normal Friday night, just like it used to be. It's as if I didn't miss out anything for the last 7 months. Now, the last time I went was in September, right after Labor Day weekend, and barely anybody was there. Like, it was such a quiet crowd that showed up for Tenet, and it sucked that it was like that, but for what it's worth, it still did okay for me for all it was worth. So I did enjoy that. Now, when it comes down to all the movies as a whole, as movies start coming back on board, we're glad to go and see that Mortal Kombat did actually pretty good. Pulled $9 million, and that was with over 3,000 screens available to watch the movie. So that was good. People were going to go see that. Godzilla vs. Kong took a hit, and it went down to 8.6 million. Well, that's only for Friday, so I want to look at what their whole look for Godzilla vs. Kong so far is. It's made $80 million domestically, $309 million for almost $400 million worldwide. And I forget how much money that movie actually got put out for in terms of production cost. But it's going to make its money back, it looks like. And remember, that movie was also put out via HBO Max. So these are the couple of movies that were already going to come out because the plan was going to be Warner Brothers was going to put out movies anyway simultaneously with HBO Max and through the theaters. So I went to the theaters like I always do. By the way, Godzilla vs. Kong, up about $200 million was the budget for that movie. But for what it's worth, it's going to make its money back because, like I said, it's going to double already what it's made. So when everything's put together, by the time the run of this movie's done, it will have done what it needed to do for HBO Max, and it will have done what it needed to do for the theaters to get people back to the theaters once again. I didn't go see Godzilla vs. Kong. Not a movie I wanted to be watching myself, but I'm sure some people like those big blockbusters. Like, I'm not a Jurassic Park kind of guy or Jurassic World. I'm not in for that. And there's other movies like that I'm not into, that just like the disaster movies. There's just certain movies that just are blockbusters that just are not my thing. I don't go out for certain ones. But Mortal Kombat I wanted to see because I was a fan of the movie back in 95, and I remember playing the arcade game, which people laugh that I actually remember the arcade game. Still remember the song, the dance hit, or the house song, dun 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 dun, right? And that's how I remember some of the characters, Johnny Cage, Sonya, Mortal Kombat. Like, I remember all that. I'm sorry. I'm just getting goofy. I'm sorry about that. So the movie, what it was worth, wasn't bad. I actually liked it. I thought it was fine. It was a different take. It was, for anybody to try to compare the original Mortal Kombat, isn't going to do it any justice because this is meant for a new audience. This is just rebooting the series, just like they have done Spider-Man, just like they've done Superman, just like they've done everything else. To bring this back, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, to bring this back was no surprise. And that's okay. For what it was worth, it was a good escapism movie. I thought the characters they had, no names to the entire cast, but I thought it was fine. The rating character looked pretty cool. Cole Young, Sonya Blade, Kano, the Liu Kang, and all these other characters, they were pretty good. That was the look of the movie was really good compared to 1995 special effects. This is much better. The story was pretty good, and every time bring us Sub-Zero, and it's like that's what people were going for. people are into that Sub-Zero character is fantastic. And to see Scorpion towards the end, great. Those are the characters, remember, that's the ones that we really like. And then a tease for the Johnny Cage character on the next run. I'm not really giving too much of a spoiler. You'll see the movie yourself and you'll like it. And I'm sure, and listen, for those that feel like they're going to get spoiled by now, you had the chance to go watch it on HBO Max and the theater by now. So if you haven't had a chance for that yet, I can't help you. I can't do anything for you. So the movie so far, Mortal Kombat, has pulled in $30 million roughly domestically and worldwide, which is pretty good. And that's a one night. That's Friday night as a release. So for the weekend, probably will get to about $40 to $50 million, which is a decent for post-pandemic. That's pretty decent for a box office for this year. And as for the rest of the schedule, you're going to see that the schedule is really composed of a lot of movies that are just remakes. Lots of remakes, lots of movies that they know are they're going to be standouts, because they know they're going to be pushed out well and they're going to do really well overall. When you look at the box office of 2021, there's not much to go and work off of this year that really says a lot. At this point, I mean, the most successful American movie is Godzilla vs. Kong internationally. And then Tom and Jerry's after that. That's the best they got. But if you look at the domestic side, at this point, Godzilla vs. Kong, Tom and Jerry has pulled in $42 million domestic this year. $80 million for Godzilla vs. Kong. Nobody pulled in $20 million, and that's pretty good. I actually going to watch that movie. I'm kind of probably waiting until next week to go and catch it. And there's others to catch, so that's all good and interesting. And also remember, there wasn't a lot of movies to go and catch in the first place. So it's nice to get that back. And the theaters, there's not a whole lot to go and catch in the next few weeks because of all the changes that happen. But in the summertime, when we get towards Memorial Day weekend, it gets a little bit better when you look at it. And there's some movies I haven't caught on to yet that I don't know anything about, so I can't tell you if they're going to be good or not. But of the movies I definitely know are going to be coming out that I am familiar with, I have to look at, well, Disney's going to have Cruella, and A Quiet Place Part 2 finally comes out after all this time. One of the early casualties of the pandemic that actually had to get pushed back, because it was around this time last year it was supposed to come out. And then The Conjuring comes back out. And then you have The Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard. God, just keep going with that. Another Peter Rabbit. Another Fast and Furious on June 25th. And then you got another Purge, July 2nd. Black Widow comes out July 9th. Cinderella, July 16th. Another Hotel Transylvania. A G.I. Joe movie. And Jungle Cruise also coming out all within the month of July. Then August, Suicide Squad, that's the DC feature for August 6th. And then the Paw Patrol movie. God. Another a revival of Candyman. And, there's some movies that are going to be there. The real big blockbuster besides Black Widow that should really stand out. And hopefully Suicide Squad, because it does actually look pretty good. And Fast and Furious. Those movies should actually really do well. If those movies domestically can pull over $100 million, that would be a big deal. Like, if F9 can pull, say, $600 million to $1 billion, as they have done in the past, if they can pull that off, that's going to be a big deal, because it'll tell people that we're back to where we were, where movies are starting to come back. And now we're going to see that the movies are coming back and they're not going away again. And I think that's what's important for all of us, is that's one of the pieces of normalcy that we get back right now. It's one of the first things where we get audiences getting together. And I mean, going to Mortal Kombat and hearing the crowd laugh at a bunch of jokes that Kano made during the movie, there were some good parts, but we had a little bit of funny, and it was nice to hear a crowd getting into it. It was good. What's interesting is there's not a whole lot of comedies, not a whole lot of romantic comedies. There's certain genres of movies that are not available, but are they going to be brought back into the schedule in the box office coming up? Or are they going to be held back? I don't know yet, but we're going to wait on that and see what they're going to do. But I wanted to give the heads up that I thought Mortal Kombat was pretty good. I'm happy the movies are coming back. The pandemic looks like we're starting to turn a corner because if the movie theaters are back and people are starting to go to the movies once again, we must be getting somewhere. I'm going to leave it there, and I'll talk to you next time.